Now, the test that we just looked at, right, it does depend on the fact that you have a running server, right, and that the servlet is that the controller, right, is actually registered and listening at a particular URL that is being invoked by a running server that is waiting in an actual HTTP request, right? And oftentimes that is not is not convenient, right? To have an actual server up and running. A server is a very expensive thing to boot up and get up and running, and we would want our tests to run as fast as possible. So we would like to be able to eliminate the dependency of actually having a server running, right? So we need to be able to replicate, right? We like the same kind of wrapper that a server gives us, but without actually having the server run, right? We would like to have an environment that can stand for the server, but be less resource intensive and just provide the interfaces that we need to simulate as if we were running in a server. Right? So that's what mocking means, right? That we are simulating the existence of something that is not real. So there's an API that allows us to do just that, called MockMvc, which allows us to have the servlet believe that it is indeed running inside of a server, right? But without actually having the server run, right? So MockMvc allows us to, for instance, perform an HTTP, right? And this would invoke the execution of the servlet without booting up the server, and the code inside of the servlet would execute, do whatever it needs to do. If it needs to go out to a database, it would go out to a database and fetch anything that it needs, come back and gives us a response. Here, the API provides us to allows us to perform a get, a put, a post, a delete, whatever we want to send, right? And it provides all sorts of additional nested or chained functions that allow us to check to see what the status is that came back, being okay or forbidden or whatever. Excuse me. Thank you. Also it can allows us to parse whatever content came back from the server and compare any of that output that came back from the server and compare it against an expected value. So in this case, it's pretty simple. We're just checking to see that what came back is just a plain string, the hello world. So this allows us to, again, focus, narrow down, and start eliminating any of the extraneous dependencies of having an actual server. This one focuses on any servlets that is mapped to root. Right? Obviously, there can only be one mapping, but I could hit any servlet I want here. Right? If we want to specify, be a little more narrow, right? We can say, this we can even narrow down what part of the environment do we want to test, right? So if we want to focus more on the web, right, we can specify exactly which controller we want to test, right? Because in MockMvc all by itself, you still get all the servlets up and running, right? Everybody listening at different URLs, right? So we can even narrow that down and say, no, this particular test only focuses on this particular controller, right? So by using the annotation WebMvcTest, we can specify exactly which controller are we testing, right? So now this perform, right? This code is identical to before, but the difference is that now it doesn't have to iterate over any number of controllers to see which one matches that slash. Instead, it only matches that home controller.